performance audit for additional services that are needed. And we actually did that last time with TSS as well. After we finished the process, there was 3 or 4 items that were added afterwards, so it was negotiated. But when we were talking about the last CBOC meeting, Mr. Kelly brought up an item to delay, which was defeated, and then we had further conversations.
That item was not defeated.
Not defeated, it was a tie, and therefore it didn't pass.
No, that is incorrect. Robert Rules of Order, and which is this board, which the CBOC is under, the chairperson cannot vote unless it was a tie vote. There was no tie vote. The motion passed.
Well, anyway, there was a dispute. There's a dispute about that, but there was people thought a motion had been defeated. Go on with your
Okay,
narrative.
anyhow, there was further conversation that evening, and the scope of services did come up, and it was specifically said that the district would meet with the CBOC Audit Subcommittee to go over the scope of services with this upcoming audit, and it was agreed to at that point. So there's, and then obviously we move forward with the facility sub, and they said come back here now and do that.
Yeah, this is it.
Yeah,
This is it, but where's the scope of services?
The scope of services,
It's being done differently
we're
than I
talking about, the
expected.
scope of services of the RFP are being done, and this is in addition to it. And it's not even in addition to it. These items, there's some items when you sign a contract, you don't put, like a 50-page contract. You're gonna do them no matter what. So in Mr. Younger's letter, there's things here that were in the CBOC bylaws, and we said we would do them. That's when you brought up that point, and we will do them. It's like having an entrance conference, an exit conference. And also it was brought up here that the audit will be received by the CBOC and the district at the same time, which it has been for the last several years. It's sent by email to all members of CBOC and the district. So there's 7 items there, but Mr. Younghart has more items he'd like to go over. And
Okay, were those items in
So
there?
which are those?
they're all here. I mean, all the items
So you
that
have something to find
I-
out, yeah.
well, this is just my reviewing it.
Okay.
But these are the items that Mr. Younghair felt that should be in the scope. What's in the scope of the RFP, and I can go up to, if I can get a copy of yours, those items we're doing as well as this. So
Okay.
it's in addition to, it's not, there's no, no minus.
And another part of it is, that's all good, but one reason to not expect a vote, but just feedback is that, well, from my point of view would be that we're getting the scope, you're gonna make copies of it, but we haven't seen it until this meeting. So that usually you get things 48 hours in advance or 72 hours in advance. So we'll give you any feedback you want, but don't consider it a
Martin,
recommendation.
hasn't the scope in the past always, has it changed from the scope that we've seen in this subcommittee as well as the CBOC as well as the district?
It's changed over the years a little bit, yes.
A little bit?
Yes.
But the basic framework for the document is the same?
Yeah, and like.
Okay, so, if the inference is that this is some, alien document from the planet of Mork, that's not the situation. It is a living, breathing document that the district has, as well as a request for a proposal.
Right.
So in this particular instance, the public is bringing their recommendations for additional items to be added to that document.
Yes.
Okay, so, but basically, this committee has not seen a document that has undergone a metamorphosis,
No.
of total change, but the basic rudiments of the scope can be addressed, as well as the additional items that Mr. Younger is trying to, Anton is attempting to bring forth.
Okay, so minus those are the basic,
Chair
the
recognizes.
fundamentals, thank you, minus the fundamentals of an RFP. In the interest of time, we're going to go down one by one of these recommendations
Yes.
by Mr. Anton,
Yes.
and you will let us know how they fit in with the current scope of work. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Exactly.
Let's do it.
Yes, okay, it's more efficient. Okay, let's go.
Is it time to do it? Do we have this at the end of the report?
All right, so we're gonna go one by
Oh,
one.
wait, do we
No,
have
no, no,
public
I
comment?
public comment.
Okay, public comment?
Yeah.
Yeah, hi, my name is Mary Hughes. When I was at the meeting last time, Mr. Younger was talking about a statute, a book that you can look at that tells you how to do it. And it was called the Yellow Book. Now, do you have a yellow book on hand that these people can look at and see?
I've never seen the yellow book.
We're not going to do the yellow book because we're not accountants, right? Well, at least.
But doesn't that tell you, but it
Yeah, I
says
am,
here,
but
it tells
I have
you
never seen the
how to
yellow
do a
book.
performance audit, so the scope should be in that book.
The chair will yield to Martin as to the relevance of the yellow book.
The Yellow Book is referred to as a government auditing tool. So auditing firms will use Yellow Book standards and Yellow Book rules. Like the district wouldn't have the Yellow Book here in front of us, kind of thing, or it's just, we'll say it's a standard that they have to audit to, whereas in the past, before the Yellow Book standard, it was just agreed upon procedures. So literally, it's the rules and regulations of the audit. And that's one of the first things Mr. Young here has as item 1. And we were remiss not putting it in because last time we went out for an RFP, there was no yellow book, applied to performance audits. Now there are.
So you should use it, right? Or at least
The
help me with your scope.
No, the auditors will use it. The auditors are gonna do, they cannot do the audit, the only way they can do it is by the yellow book.
It doesn't mention scope in the yellow book?
The yellow book, I'm sure it mentions scope, it mentions a lot of things, it's probably a very thick book, but the auditors have to audit to the standards in the yellow book. And Mr. Younger has the yellow book.
It's yellow.
Yeah, it's a big book.
So, the thing is like, but this is for the auditors when they come in and audit us.
Yeah.
But what we have to do is agree for the scope for the auditors to come in, and like the very first item Mr. Young Care's request is to audit according to the Yellow Book standards, which we agree with 100%. So we will.
But they've never seen the yellow book, so how do they know if you're doing it?
We don't need, as far as I'm concerned, we don't need to see the yellow.
Chair
book.
recognizes.
But,
Okay,
For this body, we don't need to see the
okay.
and most, I'd say most government entities don't see the Yellow Book. What they see is their own financial records, and ours come in and audit the Yellow Book standards. But as you use it more and more, and you find more and more findings, we'll get the Yellow Book and make sure, see if there's anything out there.
Yeah, what we'll want to see is that there's language about its reference in the document that's part of the contract. That's what
Yes.
we'll want.
But when we go down the list, we'll ask.
Well, I, of course, am thoroughly familiar. with
Chair
it.
recognizes.
Good. There's
Very
more public
thoroughly
comment.
familiar with it.
Oh, there's more public comment.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Barbara Young, Richmond,
Yes.
California.
Welcome.
And I'm concerned because of two things. Usually, when there's a bond oversight committee, the bond oversight committee are the people that interview the auditing firms, not the district, and they make a recommendation to the board of trustees because they're the people who are responsible for the bond oversight. Secondly, you have an actionable item tonight, an actionable item that says review of audit request for proposal and scope of audit, and you don't have the documents. You're willing to look at this person's points that he's put down, but that's not what your agenda is tonight. So for you to leave tonight on an actual item that says you're going to sort of approve an audit that you have, an auditor's request that you haven't seen. I've worked with a lot of auditors in the school business, and they don't just randomly change their RFP. So you're basing this on one RFP that you can't even see on an actionable item tonight, and I'm very concerned about that.
Yes.
AJ Benham,